We are back from summer break and there's just 3 races remaining in our season, with 2 of them happening this month. There's a whole host of points on offer and championships to fight for. Our stage this weekend is the Circuit of the Americas, the iconic undulating roller coaster where drama is guaranteed. So, welcome to your race preview for the Lone Star Le Mans. I'm Alexa Rendell and I'm delighted to be joined by our resident WEC expert, Sam Smith. And Sam, we're approaching the business end of the season. This is where things really start to get critical. What an incredible circuit for this all to play out on. What are some of the challenges going to be here?
Well, they're right behind us, aren't they? Look at the undulation. I mean, it's got a real feeling of a track, not just for the driver, but also the fan, of actually going somewhere. You know, this is somewhere you've got really quick S's at turns 5, 6 and 7. You've got great overtaking places, which slightly slower speed, and you can get through the traffic. And you've got that amazing gradient rise up to the first corner where you can use a lot of engine braking and momentum to brake super late. So a big challenge for the drivers. The challenge that they can't really organise themselves is the temperature. I mean, we're talking about degrees, 50 degrees last year, the tyre companies were seeing on track. Lots in the mix for the teams to strategise during the race. And I think it's just a great test and another excellent circuit on the calendar, which gets the most out of the drivers and the teams.
So when on American soil, it only feels right to start off by talking about one of our American teams, and conveniently, the team that got a 1-2 last time out. I'm talking about Hertz Team Jota, but in reality, I'm talking about the manufacturer Cadillac. And Sam, what a run of form they've been on. Back-to-back pole positions for Alex Lynn. There's a manufacturer's championship charge going on here. Well,
they've got a chance, haven't they? I mean, if they pull off 1-2s like they did at Interlagos, they've got every chance. Can they do it here? I'm not so sure. Let's see. They've had a lot of inherent pace in that car since the start in 2023. We've seen the one-lap pace, but we've seen that now executed into something a bit bolder, that they can actually run races, even when they had a problem like they had with the tyre pressures, which they had to fight back from. So number 12 did a great job. I expect them to be there in the mix. Fuji will be the big interesting point for them. They've always been strong at Fuji, took pole last year, but if they can get a result here, and then Fuji's coming up, all of a sudden, going into Bahrain when you've got those extra points, who knows? They're going to have Ferrari a little bit worried if that plays out in the future.
And since we're talking about American teams, it's also worth touching on the Aston Martin Valkyrie, very British car brand, but Heart of Racing are the team that run that and American-based. The progress that team is making is really quite promising.
Well, when you consider where they were at Qatar, which was, let's face it, nowhere. Yes, first race, lots to learn, but they were not the races, literally, at that first event. So when you look at the milestones that Aston Martin and the Valkyrie have ticked off already, first points at Le Mans, and then you look at where they were at the start of the season, learning all the time, I think it's remarkable the progress that they're making. And we saw in Interlagos that they were right there as well. And then the experience of running these races will put them into a really good position for the start of next year. But yeah, a lot more for the home crowd to cheer for here. They race under an American flag, and they've got, obviously, in GT3 as well, with what was achieved last year here with defending their GT3 crown on home turf for Ian James and the team.
Also worth mentioning the home manufacturers in LMGT3, Corvette and Ford. I think Corvette in particular are really upping their pace. They seem to be challenging more for podiums now, and they sit, at least 3rd and 5th in the Drivers' Championship? Put myself on the spot there.
Yeah, they had an excellent start to the season with that victory in Qatar, of course. The 81 had a really strong race in Interlagos. Second place for them, really good springboard. And again, the fans have got another chance to cheer on a real homegrown design with the Ford Mustang. I think in terms of what they can achieve this season, they'll certainly have eyes on a podium. I think a podium here would be a super result for them, building on that 6th place they got here last year.
So I know it's Cadillac's home race, but it's only fair that we do a section on Ferrari, since they are ultimately leading both championships. And it's a year since the 83 took their first ever WEC win. And what a year it's been, by the way. But the question is, Sam, can they do it again?
They absolutely can. The 83, I think, has had a fantastic season. You know, even at Interlagos, conditions didn't allow them to be there, but they did the maximum that they could do. So they're a real threat, I think, to the 51. The interesting thing, though, is the big calls that might be coming in the future. Well,
it's a good thing to touch on, actually, because it's a little bit more nuanced here, isn't it? It is a team and customer relationship ultimately between the factory team of the 50 and the 51 and the customer team of the AF Corsa, the Yellow Submarine, the 83. With the races still to come, reaching the business end of the season, that's a delicate thing to balance, isn't it, Sam?
Yeah, it is, and it's a delicate subject in some respects. You've got to remember that this is a major manufacturer, a major brand, and they have to do what's best for them. And that might be having to do some orchestration. If that happens, it happens, but it'll just be intriguing to see how they plan it if it's that close, which we hope and anticipate that it will be.
So I just want to roll through the rest of the hypercar class, starting with Toyota, because there's actually some bad news for them this weekend.
Yeah, it's like a weird deja vu, isn't it? Mike Conway's been injured in a training accident. Get well soon, Mike. I mean, a terrible thing to go through for a second consecutive season, but Jose Maria Lopez is back in. He's like a plug-and-play reserve, so much experience, so much winning mentality. But Toyota, I mean, can you believe they've not got a podium this season? I mean, it's
unheard of for them, really.
First time since 2016 that they've had this kind of run of results. It's been difficult for them. They've actually maximised a lot in the early races, but at Interlagos it just wasn't possible. The conditions didn't allow for them and their hypercar to get anywhere really near the pace or get into the points. In terms of the number 8, I think they've had a run of really difficult results. They maximised it at Imola, but that apart, you know, they've never had an outside of the points successive races. They haven't never won here. It's the only track bar Qatar that they've not won at, which is incredible. Lots of second places, succession of third places, but they'll be wanting to tick that box come Sunday afternoon.
Another team wanting to tick that box come Sunday will probably be BMW. Excitingly, over, well, the summer break, we've seen that they've been testing their aero upgrades for next season. It's gone from like very flary looking nostrils on the front of the car to sort of slightly less flary looking nostrils. Is that the technical way of putting it?
Very much is, yeah. It's on the homologation form, Alex. That's exactly what it says.
Less flary nostrils.
It's going to be an exciting new look for that team. They're playing their technical jokers effectively for the start of next season. New bodywork kit, lots of hope for the future. They've had a run of good results this year, but they've not quite... They got a podium at Imola, but that apart, I think they've been expecting a bit more from that package. I think we've always talked about them being a slight dark horse for this season, for getting challenging for a victory, but I think this could be the race where they break through and get another podium to add to the ones they got at Imola this season and Fuji last season.
Well, I wanted to wrap up the hypercar class by going and saying, well, more teams that are kind of looking for a victory, but how exciting is it that we're at a point in the WEC now where every single one of these teams could basically be challenging for podiums and a victory? But I do want to talk about Porsche, Alpine, Peugeot. They're there or thereabouts, and it's just going to take something to break through now, isn't it?
It's just the beauty of diversity, isn't it? Yeah. In hypercar, it's just wonderful to see all these looks, these colours, these cultures that each team employs running the teams operationally. And on that point, Alpine and Peugeot have both had opportunities this season to get big results. Peugeot did a great job in Interlagos in some respects, but probably didn't quite maximise what they should have got in terms of a hard result. That'll play on their minds a bit now, and I think they'll be really pushing to try and reprise what they did at Interlagos. Alpine had some reliability issues. I think they have the pace, it's just finding it. I think they've got an opportunity to do what they did at Fuji and on occasions earlier this season and really challenge Spa. Spa is not that dissimilar to COTA in terms of the overall configuration. Okay. I think that could really suit Alpine, so watch out for them to pick up another podium potentially on Sunday.
And Porsche?
The circumstances often haven't allowed them to really show what they can do. I think they'll take a lot of learnings from last year in terms of the tyres, particularly how they use the mediums and the hard Michelins. But I think here at COTA, they'll be wanting to right a few wrongs from last season.
With 4 different cars in the 4 top spots of the Manufacturers' Championship in LMGT3, it's clear to see why it's so fun and why it's so competitive. But it's the 92 Manthey that's currently leading the way in the drivers. They've actually had a fairly consistent season, and that's how you win championships, right?
Exactly right, Alexa. You know, the mark of a champion, it's a bit different from last year. In terms of this season, I think what will win the championship is when you haven't got what you need to be challenging at the front, is to get some points in 6th, 7th and 8th. And that's exactly what we saw from Manthey and Interlagos. And I think it's those results that could ultimately win the championship because it is so close. I think it's going to go down to the wire. We're going to go down to the last few hours at Bahrain. Manthey do have the advantage, but I see the 21 Ferrari being really, in terms of consistently proving to be nibbling away at them points-wise. In terms of the 54, they're always dangerous as well. They won at Fuji last year and are always there or thereabouts. Other ones that you'd look at, I would think certainly the 33, the Corvette. I think that is going to be a major factor as well. Lots of scope for a big diversity of LMGT3 cars, and it's almost impossible to nail down which one. We haven't even mentioned BMW, but again, they're kind of due a big result.
And of course we have to shout out Lexus. I know we mentioned them earlier with Jack Hawksworth coming in, but they finally got not only that first podium, but that first win for the team last time out.
Yeah, they did a great job. And I think that the interesting part of that story is the work that they did over the winter from a really tough 2024. They overcame lots of things. I don't see why they can't potentially double up and defend their winning possession going into the Lone Star race on Sunday.
Everyone's favourite part of the show. Sam, I know yours especially. Drop those predictions.
Oof, well, always hard, but super hard here at COTA. We saw last year it was essentially a Ferrari versus Toyota battle. I think Ferrari are going to be super strong again, and I think there'll be a re-emergence of Toyota. But I'm going to go for Porsche, and I'm going to go for the number 6 car. I think Matt Campbell, super quick round here. He was mega here last season. I think that the number 6 will return to winning ways and score Porsche's first win since Fuji last season.
I like it because, as you say, Porsche, when they find the pace, they know how to execute, don't they? So let's talk LMGT3. You got this right here last year, I think.
I did, and it's tempting to go for another great home hero fairy tale, isn't it, with a 27 Heart of Racing. However, I'm not going to go that, but I am going to go with a great cheer for the Americans, because I think the 33 could score their second win of the season.
Imagine the scenes.
Yeah, Ben Keating super strong here, but I don't think it'll be easy. I think it's going to be a battle between them, possibly Ferrari, and probably United Autosports, who got a podium here last season with the McLaren. I think that they'll be strong as well. So kind of those are the 3 manufacturers in my head. I'm thinking they're going to be the ones to watch on Sunday afternoon.
I'm going to hold you to those predictions, Sam, as always. Thank you so much for joining me, and thank you for watching. We've got an almighty race coming up for you, plenty of stories to be following along with, and I'm sure there will be all the drama and all the action as always. Make sure you're following along on FIAWEC.tv and across our social media. We'll see you there.